Young growing pains. As long as I'm allowed to remember this wasn't the pinnacle of context this one's life died on, I can cram it all into a paragraph and a half worth of an explanation. Fractals as mathematical formulaic process, as a description of a symmetry and process within nature as law, has assumed an ecclesia within our description of our relationships with things, properties and functions like connection at all, bearing intrinsicness, but with no obligatory uniformity, causalities, the same. Causality bearing an implied accountability upon what one calls a metaphysical, a spiritual deserving only a benefit under the knowledge of the opposite, self-study being a venture of its own, what projects itself inwardly. Being among those things that are not uniform yet, are so, warranting itself, otherwise, describing golden ratios, golden frequencies, and implying that a functionality of one's consciousness as an optimal synergy, with that, as nature, implies a consciousness achieved, and a reality from realities gained, and thus a reoccurring and malleable impressionability unto realities, and peoples, as ideal, is what accounts for a relationship with what we call, these natures that we are. Intersected with an emerging business class and reshuffling, now dying, new age, religious and economic assumption unto the world, as an accounting for reality, and a measure for which our definition of higher consciousness would have taken a last word, we are finding this rather oppressive. It has become synonym with a myopia and perfection, the likes of which circumstance describes itself in contrast with, never mind what our own beating up of ourselves until we become so high-strung as to lurch at ourselves in a consciousness attempt at controlling into a gridlock made it virtuous for. We used the word children, describing nature at all, should have come with a truthful suchness of how unobligatory it is. Our beings as experiences of it all in transit through time, was the story of such phenomena, gradually, undergoing the constant and learned understanding of its realities and itself.